Greetings, traveler. Recently, a traveler named Danislav Petrov asked a question about his first game design document. His situation is that he's been dabbling with programming and game engines and game design, but for the game that he wants to make, he just doesn't know where to start from. So today, what I want to do is talk about specifically how you can make a very simple, very easy to make, very first game design document, even if you've never made one before, and have that inform your game as much as possible. My name is Santos. I've been working in the games industry for over 14 years now, actually. And something that never got discussed when I was earlier in my career was what is a game design document and why do we need one? So before jumping in and talking about what a game design document would look specifically for Denislav's case, let's think about that for a moment. Why do we need game design documents to begin with? Well, one answer is that if you don't have one, there is nothing to reference back to when you're trying to get a team of people to create the same game. So if a team of people all have a different understanding about what the game is supposed to be and what it's supposed to contain, of course, it's very difficult to get them all together and make one complete product. Another reason is for communication, right? So maybe one person has the idea of what the game should be and knows everything about its features, but it's very difficult to have that person being there with every single developer working on a project, giving constant answers and clarifications for every aspect of the game. It is much more efficient to have this present somewhere or written down somewhere so that everybody can reference it at the same time and as much as they want. And if there is something missing or something wrong with it, it can be fixed once and it can serve the entire game development team. When is a game design document not necessary? I think that it's not really necessary if you're making a small game just by yourself, since everything is in your head anyway. And if you change it, well, nobody loses out essentially. There's no downside. Of course, if you keep changing it, then the end of the project keeps getting kicked further down the road, which perhaps is not so beneficial. So even if you're making a game just by yourself, having a document to reference all your good ideas and all the design decisions you made for the game is still beneficial. So let's move to this particular case and let's see how Denislav could make a first game design document in a fast and easy way and in a way that would help him even if he's a single indie developer. So taking the same framework from the game design document grant framework that I mentioned before and making a super light version out of this, we would end up with something like this. There's only three big elements here: the vision of the game, the pillars, and the features of the game. So if it's the very first time you're working with this framework, then this is something light and simple to start with. So putting all this on a page or on a piece of paper should only require one page, since we're just talking about a simple first-time use of this. So there's no need to be very complicated about it, and there's no need to write a full book or what this game design document should be. Instead, let's try to define all these categories and let's jump into it. First of all, the vision of the game. So this is important to show not so much the features that need to be in the game, so what characters, what objects, and so on, but to serve as a constant reminder of how we're making all of this. So in game development, you can make a character or an art asset or a sound or anything in the game in many, many different ways. You can make a character be scary or funny or dark or cartoonish or black and white or super realistic. There's really no limit of ways you can make a character. But what we want to be doing is for all the things that come under the game vision to serve it. Everything under the game vision supports the vision, and the vision dictates how everything under it should be. So in Danislav's case, he mentioned he wanted to make perhaps a game about walking in a forest or having a um, small horror game experience. So one direction this could go is making a horror game about walking in the forest, for example. Perhaps you start out just taking a pleasant stroll, but you're lost in the woods eventually. You can't find your way back immediately, and you work your way out of this dark, scary forest. So um, if we're going in that direction, then one possible vision for that is being alone in the woods is scary. So, of course, this doesn't have to be the case. There's again like many ways you could go with this, and even within the horror genre, there's many choices for how to display horror, for what feelings to put into the user, for how to have these situations manifest in the game. So again, this is entirely up to the designer to take it in the direction they want. But for this example, let's say that the vision we want for this game is that being alone in the woods is scary. That's the core idea, the core feeling, the core concept that we want to make present everywhere in the game, in the looks, in the feeling, in the conversations, the sounds, everything. And of course, if it's not what we want, we can change it. But once we have this, we shouldn't be changing it because it will inform everything else in the process. So next part is the pillars. So what are pillars? In game design, game pillars are 2 or 3 or 4 simple concepts that define how this game is different from every other similar game out there. So, for example, you can have 2 games about um, fighting with airplanes, but because they might have different pillars, they might play completely differently and they might look completely differently, even though technically they're in the same genre and they have the same description. So pillars help us make things more specific and differentiate our game from all the other similar games out there. So here I'm only mentioning one of the pillars because again, it's up to the designer to define what best serves the game and more specifically, what best serves the vision. And this is the reason why we write things like this, one under the other, because concept-wise, every higher layer is supported by the layer below. If the layer below is not doing its job to support the layer above, then we have a very mismatched kind of unbalanced design-wise game. While if the pillars support the vision, then the game has a very strong identity, it's united, it's going in one direction, and it can deliver the feeling and the vision we want for it more effectively. So one of the possible pillars here could be that we need a dark, realistic forest. So other possible pillars could be a weak protagonist that is not athletic, or to show the weakness of the protagonist. Another pillar could be immersive single player experience. And again, there is no requirement for this game to be single player. It's just a choice that we want to make for this particular example. So I'm leaving the other pillars to work out on your own and to decide what would serve you best in this case. But I'm just giving one pillar here as an example. But a couple more pillars would definitely be helpful for this game. So if one of the pillars is a dark realistic forest, then that still doesn't do anything for the game, right? A pillar by itself is just a guideline. So the next thing we want to do is, of course, and just a side note, this pillar should be in the same direction as the vision itself. Because we're alone in the woods, then the woods is one big part of it. So going in and defining it in one of the pillars is a good idea. If one of the pillars was something like fun, exciting, colorful boat rides, this suggests, bright colors, fun, water. It's nowhere near the alone in the woods experience. So that wouldn't be a good pillar in this case. So If we say we need a dark realistic forest, then we can, after defining the other pillars as well, then we can move to the features of the game. So the features essentially is the list of all the things you have to make in the game, all the things that need to exist as graphics or and mechanics and code-wise and sounds and so on. So every pillar will have several features under it. And the features, just like with the waterboating example, uh, they can't be away from the pillar itself, right? So if the pillar is dark realistic forest, then the features need to support this. They need to bring this in reality in the game. So of course, we need a forest, so we have to make the forest. And here in the forest feature, we add a description of what the forest should like more specifically. So what kind of trees, what kind of ground, the environment, and so on. All the things that we specifically have to make in the game, the physical models and sounds and game design and code that needs to exist in the game for this pillar to be supported. Another one could be shadows, or you could put these two together and say that for my game to deliver on this vision and these pillars, we need this kind of forest with this kind of trees and these kind of shadows. We need, for example, tall pine trees or cypress trees or something, something that casts a big shadow, something tall that it hides enough of light, enough of the light to create this dark, scary experience. Or you can say that the trees themselves don't have so many leaves to hide the light, but instead, the scariness of the experience is supported by the day turning into night in the forest. So that's where the darkness comes from. And the trees themselves support this not by hiding the light with the leaves, but with their shape. So maybe the trees have like all this bent, weird shape that looks maybe human, maybe like a human shadow. And if you look at it in a specific angle, it looks like somebody is maybe chasing you or a scary person or something. So this would support the experience in this sense. And you can make as many features as you need to support every pillar. And a feature might support two or more pillars at the same time. It could be that the forest supports the this pillar itself, but maybe you have another pillar about, let's say, limited movement space. So if you put the trees close together, then that's one way to serve this limited movement space pillar. And once you have the features, once you complete the list of pillars and all the features that support them, that is your recipe for all the little things you need to make the game complete. So here you're going to have your forest and your player character and the sounds and the mechanics and the storyline and how the dialogue is delivered, or if there's dialogue at all, or how the player learns about the objectives he has to complete in the game and how he can go about completing them. So everything that's in the features list gets made. If something is not in the features list, it's not going to get made. That's one simple way to think about it. And of course, never forget that all these features must trace back to a pillar, or at least, if it's just a quality of life thing, if it's just some UI element that you believe helps, then that's okay too, I suppose. But quality of life features are something that's present in all games, so it's not special in that sense. These features should definitely trace back to the pillars and the vision, because this will also help you in a different way. Often you will get suggestions from other people, or you will have new ideas about the game. You will think, oh, that would be cool to put in the game, or maybe this game would be fun with, I don't know, with dinosaurs or with racing cars or whatever. When you have these ideas, when you consider adding these things to the game, these two parts are the parts that you reference. If you wanted to focus on Formula One cars, for example, and you think, well, our game is about being alone in the woods, that wouldn't be something that serves this vision. It would be a cool idea, perhaps for another game, but if we define our vision this way, then it doesn't have a close match with it. Or since the pillars are about a forest, then having a car race in a dark, dense forest doesn't sound like a fun car race because there's not enough space to have it. So again, maybe it's an idea for a crazy cool game out there, but it doesn't serve this particular game so well. And when you have this framework to guide your decisions, you don't have to waste time implementing things that wouldn't serve the game anyway. It's cool to note these new ideas in a document so you can remember them for later on, perhaps for other games, or perhaps if you want to make a different game, a different version of this game later on. But this framework makes you stick really, really close to the idea you have in mind right now, to the game that you want to make. And once you have your complete list of features, then you can go on and make them one by one. You know exactly what is necessary for your game, and you know when the game is going to be complete. So when you have your forest as you like it, and the shadows are as you like it, and the player character behaves as you like, so you can choose first person view or third person view, or it can be a side scroller or a top down game or isometric or I don't know, any of the other camera options out there. It's up to the designer to decide which one of these options best serves the game. And once you define it down here in the features, then you don't have to think about it anymore. You know that the best decision for a camera is this, and the best decision for a setting or an environment is this, and the best direction for choosing trees is this. So all that's left to do is simply find those trees and implement that camera and so on. So you are, through this framework, put closer to the production side of the game, and you can quickly be done with the design part, since this kind of framework very naturally leads from one step to the other and can help you um, find all the necessary elements to get to where you want to go as quickly as possible. Now, is this a complete game design document? It depends on what you want to achieve. There is still other things here like um, game design tests and game balancing and having enough details so that everything about the game is very clear and very easy to understand. Even if the game itself doesn't exist yet, somebody just by reading this document could get a clear enough idea about what this game is, what it looks like, and how it functions. But at the same time, we have to think, what purpose does this particular game document serve? So if it's just a reference for a single person developing a game, then perhaps you don't need to go that far with your game design document, and you can be done with it within a page or so. But if this is a more expansive game and you want to have many levels and handle multiple mechanics, there's 27 weapon types in the game and so on, and you need to make sure that everything works and everything uh, is compatible with each other, then I would recommend going to the full framework that uses the pillars, the vision, and the features, and detailing everything there. But for a first attempt, I don't think you need to go that far. I think it's more important to have fun making the game and have fun playing the game, and that is going to inform you better for most of the part of this development. Of course, after this, you will be showing it to other people, you will be getting feedback. So referring back to this to see if the feedback you received is in line with the game or it takes you further away from the vision of this game is also super important. So in that sense, the document serves this purpose as well. So that's it. It's very light. It's basically one line sentences for the most part, which is a very good thing when you're just starting out. So please give this a try and let me know how it works for you and if you have any questions. Anyway, that's it for today. As always, thank you so much for your time and have fun.